Just checking the sound. Okay, I have to check the sound again because I didn't have my sound on my computer, so just checking the sound. Oh, good evening, everyone. I'm a few minutes early. I can show you the Saturday sew-along bag. Oh, still got thread on it. I've already posted on Facebook the fabric cutting and zipper size and all that stuff. Miss Loreens's Schoolhouse Facebook. Oh. And of course, as always, I put the tab on the wrong end. I really wanted it on this end, and I thought I did, but apparently not. So maybe next time I'll put one on each end, and then I won't have to worry about it. So that's Saturday's project, and I have to teach a class Saturday morning, so we're going for 1:30 at the latest. I may be all because I moved my class time up earlier in the morning, so I'm hoping that it'll work out so that we can stay at 1 o'clock all the time. But just to be on the safe side, I posted 1:30. Okay, I was waiting to hear back from Christine to see if she had her sound on. We got a few minutes. Anybody have any questions from last time or any time? Or I'm going to give you yardage for the table runner, but if you do it bigger, obviously you'll need more. Maybe I jumped in a little early. We still have 5 minutes to go. Does anybody, I guess I already asked that. Does anybody have any questions? I guess I could pick out my fabrics. But oh, I got it upside down for tonight. Okay, we just have a couple minutes to go. Pulling from my leftover pile. Hi, Rhonda. Hi, Gloria. Hi, Christine, Lynn. Anybody else? Hello, everyone. Oh, we got 1 more minute to go. Okay, so good evening, everyone. This is block 8 tonight that we're working on. I laid this out like this with my little pieces that I had, so you could see if you were going to use the same color in your sashing as the background of your blocks, if you did all your backgrounds the same. If you use the background in the sashing, then it would look like your blocks are floating and your blocks are really, you know, not hitting against each other, so you don't have to worry about any seams or anything. But also, and this is what I do. This is what I do when I'm by myself. If I'm not sure what I want to do, I sometimes will lay a fabric down, and I just don't have to have a big piece, but this will give you the general idea, and say, okay, well, what would it look like? Let me use a different one because I already have a sashing on that one. Let's see. So let me bring this down a ways. Just so, and this just kind of gives you an idea if you're not sure. And of course, you'd probably have a bigger piece of fabric, but you only want, this is 1 inch finish, so you only want to see the 1 inch of it. I don't think I have another piece of that fabric. So you would just lay that fabric down underneath. Maybe this red would really show. Let me get a red one that would really show better. So say I was going to have red in between. And so that would start to give me an idea of how that would look with the red. We're going to have cornerstones here, so they can be another color that would break up the solid color. But if you've got a fabric in mind that you want to try out, and you're not sure, just lay it underneath your blocks, but leave just that 1 inch. Don't leave a big space because it isn't going to look the same as like down here. So you can get an idea of how it's going to work, and this red would work fine with what I have here. It really just depends on what you want. But the other thing you want to keep in mind is if you pick out, this is your sashing, this area here between the blocks, well, then you got to think about, okay, well, if I've used red here, the red is also going to go all the way around, like see how the gray is? So then you got to think about, okay, what do I want here? What do I want here? Before I start going with a really dark or a prominent color. Now you could take this one out, this little inner border, and just have a bigger border. You can do whatever you'd like. So you have to give that some thought. So if you decide you want to have a really prominent color like red or green or bright gold or something, you want to think about maybe you won't want to have this inner border. Maybe you'll just want to have a nice big print out here. And you could have your sashing color out here as well. So you could take this border print that you're going to have, and you could put it in the cornerstones. Excuse me. Or you don't have to have cornerstones. It's entirely up to you. So hopefully that kind of makes sense, because we're going to be getting down to starting to put it together next week. We'll be putting our sashings on, cutting our sashing and put it on. So let me get this out of the way. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit. The other thing you need to know is, excuse me, what order you think you might want to have them in. Now, that's one of those things that could change, and we'll talk about it again next week. but you want to have an idea of where you might want your blocks to be. And if you're not done yet and you want to do more blocks and make it wider or longer, that's fine too. Because you can always come back to this video and next week's video when you get yours ready to go. But next week we should be cutting sashing and putting it on. I will say don't stress over what order they might be in, because sometimes you just might move them around. So normally we would put sashing on this block and this block, and all the way down. These don't need sashing on the right because there's this border goes all the way around. So the only place you need the sashing is on this left-hand block. Well, if you decided that you put sashing on this one and not this one, and then you move them around, okay, just take the sashing off of that one, put it on this one. It's not that big a deal. People, you really need to get over whether you have to unpick something, because it isn't necessarily a bad thing. Is it a pain in the neck? Sometimes, but if you're like me, you've done it enough times that it's like, okay, well, I guess gotta do that. The other thing you want to think about is how you want this turned. Which color do you want where against this other one? And we'll talk about that more next Thursday. But I just wanted you to get an idea of where we're headed. And the other thing is we have to square up our blocks so they're all the same size. And we'll do that next week as well. I did 6.5-inch squares, and I'm fortunate enough that I have a 6.5-inch ruler, and I'm extra fortunate enough to have, so this is a 6.5-inch square ruler, but I also have the Quilt in the Day ruler, and if you can see, it doesn't have a lot of lines on it, but it has this line and this one, so I can put it right in the center and see how my straight line will go corner to corner, corner to corner, so I can get it squared up. I can lay this on and go all the way around and get it squared up. If you have a bigger ruler, then you'll do two sides, then do the other two sides. But it's always best to, if you have a ruler the right size, but that doesn't always work out. I do a lot of 6.5, so I happen to have a couple of them. I'd be happy to lend you one. Okay, so that's a little bit, and again, I'm just doing a little overview of next week, just so you can be a little. I know some people like to be a little more prepared before class. There's no need to be, because you don't have to finish anything. So if you just work on squaring up next week and getting your sashing on or getting your sashing cut, that's fine. I'm using the, what do they call this? It's the strip set, fabric strip dies. And I did the pattern purposefully so I could use these. Or if you have the Accuquilt, they have a strip set. Or if you're going to cut your own, then you can cut your own. In the pattern, if you want to write it down, in the pattern, the sashings, the little gray part, those are cut 1.5 wide. So you'll cut 1.5-inch strips. And I'll go over in a few minutes how many you need of each one. The inside border, if you're doing the inside border, is cut 2 inches, and the outside border is cut 3 inches. If you don't want a double border, just cut yours, whatever size makes you happy, 4 inches, 4.5. And again, you can lay the fabric down beside your blocks, see how the border looks at what width before you decide to cut. And I'll tell you that if you're doing this size, which is finished, it's 23 by 37. So I can tell you that the sashing left and right, each one will be a strip, So that's 1 strip, 2 strips, and then the top and bottom can come from 1 strip. So that's 3 strips that are 1.5 inches wide. Then you've got your little sashings. Your sashings should be cut the same size as your block. So if you did an 8-inch finished block, which is 8.5 before it's finished, you need an 8.5-inch strip, and you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You need 10 of them, and they're the same width. The sashing, this little, I call it the sashing border, and the sashing is all the same size. Cut 1.5 inches. Okay. The next border, the inner border, again, that's one strip, and 1 strip means salvage to salvage. So that's 42 inches. So you need 1, 2, and the top and bottom can come from 1 strip. So that's 3 strips. So I believe you're going to need 1/4 yard for your sashing and your sashing border, and 1/4 yard for your inside border. The outside border is cut 3 inches, and you need 3 strips, which is exactly 1/4 yard, 9 inches. And if you make a mistake, or where you get your fabric, they cut it just slightly wrong, then you're in trouble. So I would go up to 1/3 yard, which is 12 inches, because that gives you 1 more strip if you need it, because 4 times 3 is 12. Or if you're like most of us, you just get 1/2 yard. And then this can, this is going to, the squares are the same size, so this is a 3-inch square. And you probably can get that from your scraps. And they don't have to be the same color. They can be all different colors. Whatever makes you happy is fine. So 1/4 yard for the sashing border, 1/4 yard for the inside border, and I'd say 30 yard for the outside border. You might want to consider whether you're going to have binding or not. I'm not going to do binding, because binding to me looks funny next to this, because the color of the binding is going to show past the block. So I'm going to cut this and turn it. So I need a piece for my back, roughly. So let's say 23 by 37. So I would be like 20 to 24 by 24, 25 by 38. You don't want to cut that. You don't want to cut your strips down. Just cut your strips and leave them. Don't cut them down, because you're going to learn how to get the proper size that you need for your project. Okay? Does anybody have any questions on that whole business? So, let me stick that over there and pick this all up, and we can get ready. I did the sashing on this one so you could see how there's a space in between the blocks. And in the same color, it just makes like the blocks, I call it floating. They're not like this where they're edge to edge. But you could do that if you wanted to. That's up to you. Okay, so let's see where we are. Whoop, another block there. I moved my machine to the way to the right, so hopefully it won't be as noisy this time. See how that works out. So we're working on our last block, which is this one right here. And in our book, it's on page 11, Fox and Geese. And you can see we need 3 colors, background being 1 color, and then 2 other colors that go with it. Now this is a good time to take your blocks out and just lay them all out. And I'm just going to move them up a bit. Then I got this oddball one, which, you see how I did a different color? Well, I can't put just one of these in. I really should have put 3 in, so I may have to do this over, but I may do more. I haven't decided yet. But what I want to do is I want to look at this and see, do I have too much red? Do I have too much green? Do I have too much gold? Do I need more gold? Because you can address that issue in this last block, because they don't have to sit in the order they are there. You can, you can move them around however you want. I wouldn't have probably this one and this one together, because see how the same thing is going on? So you want to break up the geometrics, I guess it is, of your blocks. So you don't want to have, like, you wouldn't want to have these two together, because see, they're relatively plain and now they look even more plain. So then I would switch them around. Hopefully that makes sense to you. And again, it's your quilt, your top, whatever makes you happy is good. But I would look at it and say, well, I guess I have enough gold. I'm all right with that. Depending whether I want more black, I think I'm good with that, because if I do this one over, it'll have black in it. So I think I want more red, because when I did this, if you remember last week, this was actually red fabric, but now it looks all green. So I feel like I'm green and green and green, and I know this one's red and this is red, but I think I want a little more red. So that's why I grabbed out this. So first I grabbed this one, and then I thought, I'm going to fall into that same trap again with it being more green than red, so I don't want to use that one. And I meant I didn't want to use it as my red. So I'm going to pick the red for the big sections, because I want the red to really show, so they're bigger. And if you have a big print, that's where you might want it. And then I'm going to use this one, because this does read green, and I want it red and green. That was my whole point, of red and green with a little gold and a little black thrown in. So that's my choices, and I'm going to use my regular background. So now let's get these out of the way. Do you have your colors all picked out? Move that up there. And let me stick these over here. Okay. So my big half square triangles will be the red, and the green will be the little half square triangles, and the rest will be background. So I'm doing a 6-inch block. I almost looked and thought, oh my God, doesn't have directions for a 6-inch block. Had a little heart failure there. So I need 4 2-inch squares. So when I look at that, the squares are, let me show you. It's easier to show you on here. The squares are, oh, sorry. Here's one, here's one, here's one, here's one. So I know the 4 squares are going to be background. Oh. And I need 16 half squares. Well, I know that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them are going to be my green, and the rest is going to be my background, because the only other color is the big half squares, and that's my red. So I'm going to get my dies out. So I need a square first. So I need a 2-inch square. And that, I'm looking at my chart, that's the next to the next one back from the middle. I know, I have to put it back. And then I want to make sure I have the half squares. So make sure, I know I tell you this every time, half square, always read it, not quarter square. Okay, so I need half square. Oh, let me just put this right up here. So I need a 2-inch half square. So let me just get that first. So the 2 inches on this side, it's the smallest one. 2 inches. And then I need the 3.5. 3.5 is right next to that one that we just took out. Okay, so we're ready to go. Everybody's ready to go. I will tell you that I ran through my plates a couple of times earlier, like 4 or 5 times, just the 2 plates, and it did flatten them out more. Before I did that, I did the 3 with the plastic one in the middle, and that helped flatten the plastic out a little. But then I took that out and did just these 2, and that really helped a lot. So, okay, so I'm starting with my top up there, apparently. My metal. Got my tape. I'm going to do my big pieces. So I'm going to use my, this is going to be my red. I only need 2. So 2 reds. Let's check. Oops, don't mean to be clangy. Okay, so my straight of grain. Always try to keep my straight of grain on the left. Once I put my die down right, if I want to turn this a little bit, that's okay. But I want to start out with it on my right. I mean my left, sorry. And I need some background. And I had it here a minute ago. All right, I had a smaller piece than this one. Let me just cut this. And if I look, I was thinking that I was going half red, half white, but I'm not. The only thing that's big is the red. So I can go ahead. And I'm going to put that down here. And the reason is because I got fabric hanging over. And I can let it hang over down this end because I'm feeding from here. So let me just take that one for now. Okay, and now on my white, I need the 4 squares for the white. Oh, again, let me check my. Oh, thanks, Rhonda, for the thumbs up. You got it, okay? So I'm just checking my straight of grain is over here on my left again. I need 4 squares. Let's see if I can fold it and get the squares on. Make sure that your cutting part of your die is facing down. So that works. Oh, I think I got a little much on the tape there. So now I can move that up, I guess. And see, I can move this one up. Okay, now I've got 4 layers here, so I might as well. What do I need? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh my God, I need a lot of those. How many does it say? 16. So 2, 4. So I got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. If I had the add-ons with it, where you can buy extras of these, I could put another one right next to it. Now I can't have this hanging off. That won't work. So I'm just going to cut this off. And I'm cutting it off so that Okay, we keep having a little delay. Are we back now? Okay, I cut this little piece off of here, and I cut it so it's the size I can use it. Okay, so I got my sandwich together. And I'm going to step over to my right, so hopefully you won't, oh, I don't need to take that with me. It'll be quieter for you. That one did some crackling. Did you hear it? So I'll flip this over. Flip this over. Oop. And I'm going to use that tape again. So I have 4 of the white. And 4 squares. And 2 of the big ones. So I'm all done with this die, and I'm all done with the square die. Done with the red fabric. And I'm just going to go ahead and just cut that right there. And now I can put this on so it's still have straighter grain because I was straight here. And use my tape. I'm going to go ahead and run this one through. Oop. Change this underneath. Let's try this way. Okay, you go ahead and do yours. Get them cut. And I probably should use my my smaller plates from the Gemini Junior plates because I'm only putting in this little bit. And let's undo that tape. Okay, and there's 4 more. And let's see, how many did we need? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, I'm just going to keep going. Let's turn this around, which turns this around. Oh, tape it. Oh, see, I almost put it in the wrong order. Trying to rush. And you notice when I take my plates off, I'm still trying to turn them. So I've got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. How many? Geez, I've forgotten again how many I need. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, I got a couple extra there. You guys were probably yelling at me to say I didn't need that many. Okay, and that's pretty well done. Okay, now I need, my last fabric is the green, so I need 2, 4, 6 of those. So let's see. Oh. Straight of grain over here. And my fabric is hanging off, so I'm going to put it so it's all on there. Little piece of tape. So that's 4. I could do 6, but should I? Well, then I wouldn't know how to fold it. I could do 8. Oh, I can do 8 and fold it right over. Now I'll just do. See, I'm hesitant now. All right, let's do 2 more. I sometimes think the machine likes the more rather than the, like just 2. Okay, so I think I'm done. Oh, for crying out loud, what made me think I needed 6? What made me think I needed 6? I don't know what am I doing the wrong one? My count, oh, all right, so that's my fault. I'm looking at this, and I'm trying to figure out, those 2 were gold. I forgot I had done that. So I'm just going to leave it as the green. I'm just going to leave it as all green and red. I was looking at this, trying to figure out where I went wrong. Okay, so now I've already lost my, what did I do with my, oh, it's because I lost my die. I'm going to set those right over there for now. You'd be putting yours away. And let's see if we can get this laid out right. So I know in my 4 corners, our half square triangles. And I'm just checking my fabric to make sure I'm right side up. Okay. And I know next to each one of those, or if you were doing the gold, you'd have the gold here and here. And I'm going to see how it looks because I can always change my mind and cut 2 in the gold. Okay? Now I know that my squares are going right next to it and right next to it on the opposite sides. Oh, I am going to be short. Oh no, I'm good. Had a moment there. So I know that my greens, or these colors, are touching. Remember, if you're doing it like the picture, these are gold. Just I hope I didn't get everybody all confused. Got myself confused. So you see what I have here is it's going to be, it's like its own little square. And I can lay down and I do have these quite a ways apart from each other. So this, do I have this going in the, yep, this is going to go in this direction. So the long side is to the inside. So it would be like there. Let's bring them a little closer. And we just have to fill in and the long side is going against this long side. And now that I look at it, I think maybe I do want those to be gold. These two. Because it's looking kind of, looks like it needs a little something. So I'm going to go ahead, get my little die. Those are extra. And dig in my pile. Find a little gold. Oh, let's go this way. Oh, well, that's not helpful, is it? Let me do it down here. I was trying to stay so you could see. I still have tape over here on my side. Excuse me. Put my metal plate under. And run that through. take my tape off. So see, you can change your mind as you're going along. It's okay. Put my die away. Or up out of the way. Now I know I've made a big mess here. Where's my picture? Here I am. So I'm going to change this one out for the gold. And then this one out for the gold. There. Now I think that, whoop, got another mess going here. Now don't you think it's got a little more life to it? So we're going to address this one section at a time. So we can go ahead and take all our half squares here. I made quite the mess tonight here. And we know we're stitching along that long side. But we'll put a pin in there just to be on the safe side. And we can go ahead and do all of those. And normally I would leave them laying down and flip them, but I can't quite reach to, oh, I guess I can. So I'm going to flip that one over. Put a pin in it. Flip this one over. Put a pin in it. And I could do the gold ones now, but let's just work on this corner and this corner. So are you all set up with your sewing thread, your Microtech 70, what is that, 7010 needle? However you're getting your 1/4 inch seam. I'm on my baby lot. I'm using the J foot, which the J foot is the one with a little button on the side. And I've gone to I'm on the Solaris, but quite a few of the machines have it. I'm in the quilting stitches. So if you have like the Solaris, the Destiny, the Elegante, and who am I missing? I'm missing somebody. Bellissimo. You have a tab, Q tab. You go to the Q tab, and it should be like Q-02. It'll have the little P. In some of the smaller machines, and I mean smaller in size, just look for the stitches that have the little P for piecing, to the bottom right of the stitch, and you want the P stitch that has the straight stitch or show, but it's a little to the right of center. And I'm going to chain piece these. And I didn't put the camera over for chain piecing because we've done it so many times, so that we can move along. Okay, we're going to cut these apart. I put my I put my pin in between the scissor things and the scissors wouldn't come out. It's a good way to keep them in from falling out. Okay, and my little roller is here somewhere. Here we go. So I'm rolling the seam over to the dark, having the seam go to the dark side. Let me check and see, does anybody have any questions? I think we're good. Okay, now we got to get these put back into the right spot. So remember, one of these is out on the corner. And then the other one is facing in. Oh, lost my square. So see, they're like a little bow tie. Okay? So I'm going to do this one first. So we're going to be turning the page. This would be column A, column B. So I'm just going to turn the page, column B on top of column A, put a pin in it. Okay, column B flipped over on top of column A. Now remember, when we stitch these, we're going to stitch them, chain piece them together, so they become one, all webbed together. My lining up skills aren't the best tonight. Okay, I'm going to stop. I don't know if you can get the... Let me turn this down a little. So remember, we've got a seam. See the seam right here? It'll want to pop back, so you just got to keep an eye on it. Now we don't want to cut the threads. So we're going to have the seam go to the right. Oh boy, I'm way off. Can you see how far off I am at the top and the bottom? So let me open this one up. So this seam is to the right, this seam is to the left, because it's going towards the plain one that doesn't have any other seam to contend with, but I am going to stitch that over. So I do have to pull this apart. And see, doesn't take long to unstitch, does it? And I've got to make sure that I'm on the side I'm supposed to be. And if I'd aligned this up on all four sides, I would have probably not have to undo it. Let's see if I can do a little bit better job this time. Oh, now this is my night. So can you see? Look right there. Look how I didn't line that up. So look what happens up here. You see? So let's do it again. I don't want to have to undo it too many times because it'll ravel the thread. So what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to line up my other side that I keep going off on and sticking a pin there. And I will coax this one around to how it's supposed to be. And it may be just that I didn't sew well on this seam coming up. But we'll at least try to get it as best we can. You guys will have your block all done by the time I'm done this square. But I wanted you to see how you help remedy the situation because I wasn't truly square here. So putting this pin in forced me to keep this one right and kind of wiggle that one. Okay. So now we're just going to flip them up. And one seam is going to the left, one seam is going to the right. So I want to make sure I get that pinned. Again, I want to look over here and make sure that's lined up, and look over here and make sure this is lined up. Once I get close to that seam, I'm taking the pin out, but you notice my hand right here is still hanging onto the fabric, so when I pull that pin out, I'm not pulling my fabric crooked. And this one, oh, you know what we can do here? Let's see if we can do the twirl. Let's see if I can come down closer. Okay. So we're going to try to twirl the seam. So here's my seam coming across. I'm going to take the stitches out that are to the right of it. Flip it over. Do the same on the other side. Let's see if we can get the twirl. So let's see. It would be this way and this. No. See, it wants to go that way, and I want to go this way, and it won't let me go that way. And I can tell by the way this seam and this seam are, they're going this way. And I was trying to go the other ones the other way because it puts the seam, you see I'm folding this seam over another seam. Do you see how that looks there? But if it lays and feels flat, that's fine. But I want to get the twirl, and I want this to go this way. So we've done this before. I'm just going to take a little cut here, almost to the stitches, almost to the stitches. And now, and you see, I'm going the way I want to here, which is over to the fabric that has no seam. And then I still got my twirl. So see the other part of my seam? You can see the white. See the little white right there? And I'm doing the same here. So the bottom is going left to the empty square. Check that out. How's that? And look at our middle. And now I can feel it. Oh, let me back us up again. Oops, sorry, wrong way. I can feel that. Let me see if I can tip this just a tad. There you go. But I can feel on the top how this is, there's no knots there. And you know when you feel a knot, you know what I mean. It's like a, you know, like a bump, like a hard bump. So there's one corner. Now let's do the other corner. And again, flipping, turn the page of the book. And before we lift it up, stick that pin in. Turn the page. Stick the pin in. I'm going to leave that one right there and take the first one, because if I take them both over at the same time, I may end up stitching this one first and this one second. So I know this one's first. I'm going to take it all by itself. And I'm going to line up all the sides. Sorry about that. I was having trouble getting to my pedal. Now, that one's here. You can see it right there. Now I know this one is second. Pin is on the right, so I'm sewing on the proper side. So after I line this up, I want to look around, make sure all the sides are lined up, and just get them lined up as best you can. You know, we aren't going to be perfect. And the night would never be complete if I didn't say this isn't your prom dress. Okay, now this one, hopefully I can keep it together this time. Again, pressing the top one to the plain side. Always try to go your seam allowance to the side that doesn't have any other seam allowance to contend with. So, top seam to the right, bottom seam to the left. And I got to keep it together this time. So see, now I can just flip it right over. And I don't need to worry about how I pick it up, because the open side is not the side I'm sewing, it's the side that is hooked together. Oh, now I made a big mess doing that. And I'm putting that pin in just after the seam allowance so that I can stitch up to, in maybe one stitch into the seam allowance before I have to take that pin out. And I'm just double checking my sides. And if I need to, say I need to grab onto this and bring it over more, I can do that, and then just stick a pin here so that now I'm staying nice and straight. Okay, I'm getting near that pin, so I'm holding my hand on the fabric when I pull the pin out. So you didn't know you could make a whole quilt with 4 pins. Okay. Now, so I'm feeling this one. I know I twirled the other one, but I wanted you to see how you could twirl it and cut. But I'm feeling this in the center, and that feels pretty flat. I don't have any bump. So I'm just going to leave it just the way it is. I'm not going to fool around with you. I want you to see on this one because the twirl was going the opposite way that we wanted to, and what you could do about that. I'm getting really brave, and I'm putting my seam ripper away. Okay, I had to just double check, make sure it wasn't frozen. My other computer that I monitor the YouTube on, went to sleep. Well, I wasn't looking. Okay, so we got our 2 corners done. Now we got to work on one of these. Okay, so let's see how we're going to do this. Well, this would, oh, let me get up here. Sorry, I was down out of sight there. So we have to think about how we're going to do this. So this one goes to this one. This one goes there, this one goes there, and then we could put that on. So what you have to look at is this one has to be last because it spans across everything. So I think the first thing we'll do is we'll just flip this up. Oh, let me get up higher. So I'm going to flip this up onto here. And put my pin in. So I know what side that I'm stitching on. Okay, so we're going to press to the dark side, and that goes right there. Okay? Now I'm going to take and put this one on. I don't really know if I need to go this one first or this one first, so if you want to wait while I do it and see how it works out. Okay, now I know. Okay, had to wait a second there. Okay, so I know that I'm going to be on stitching on this side, but if you're not sure, put that down. Put that down. Put the pin on. I apologize. I'm getting some kind of intermittent disruption. I don't know why, and it seems to happen at the same time every time. So every time I see it pause, I will wait until I can see it work again, so I'm not talking and you don't hear anything. Okay, so we're going to just stitch it, or I'm going to stitch it. If you want to wait and see, I'd wait and see. Let me make a mess. That's why this is a stitch along. So I usually don't do it ahead, just so that I might run into the same problems you'd run into, and how to fix them. So we're good. We're good so far. So now I'm going to flip this one over. Now when this one flips over, this end doesn't really line up with that end, but that's okay because we're going to line up along here and here. and ouch, just stabbed myself. And I'm going to put my pin in, just so I keep you in the habit of putting your pin in, so when you go over, your pin's on the right. If I look behind, so let me see if I can show you that. So I'm not lined up here. Do you see that? You see how that's not lined up? But if I look behind, I'm lined up with this. Does that kind of make sense? So see, up here. See how that doesn't line up? It's not on that angle. But if I turn it over, it's exactly lined up with this. Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm so let's see how we look. And I'm going to fold, go over so my seam is on the right. So both of my seams are facing towards these two pieces, not towards this one. And look what we got. How's that? Now you're going to give it a whirl, or did you already live on the edge? And so remember, don't worry about this. We need that 1/4 inch for our seam coming across. So I'm going to flip this over. And what you can do, if you want to be a little cheatery, let's get this pinned, and then I'll zoom in closer so you can see. And I just want to make sure that my back and front are lined up along here. So let me get some of these threads out of the way so you can see. All right, well, I'm going to trim this. I wouldn't normally trim it if I'm sewing along, but I want to trim it so you can see. So let's see if I can bring this down and get it focused in. I'm not sure if you can see, but let me use my pin. So we have a line of stitching coming from this direction, and we have a line of stitching coming from this direction. And where they cross is where we want to sew on, but we want to be, I don't know if I can get close enough to, let's see if it'll focus in. So we want to sew right across like that. So I go like 1 thread above where they cross over, because I would rather have a little space with my point than cut a little of my point off. So let's give that a whirl and see how that works out. Oops, I went a little further. Here we go. Okay, here we go. And you'll be able to see exactly what I'm talking about as you're sewing along. And you're going to kind of steer the boat. I'm down a little low, so I can't quite see it as easily as probably you can. Okay, let's see. Okay, so I went a little more than I needed to, but I'm happy with that. If I wanted to be a little closer, I could just fold it back and stitch again. I wouldn't unstitch what I have. I would just stitch like a thread over to the left than I was, but I'm happy with that. And I've put the seam towards this plain piece. I don't want that seam going back into all this. Okay? Oh, nice. See, I'm I'm stretching that too much. I got to be careful. Okay, we ready to do the last one? Or are you guys all ahead of me? Rhonda, give me a thumbs up if you guys are all still there. I think we're unfrozen now. I don't know why it does that. I noticed that the last few times we've been on that it does a little freeze for a minute, and then it stops, and then it freezes for a minute, and then it stops. All right, so while I'm waiting to hear if anybody's still there, it's recording, so I guess if I'm by myself, you can always see it later. Oh, Rhonda gave me a wave. Hey, Rhonda, thank you. I like your little hands there. Okay, so we're ready to do this one? So remember, the very first thing we're going to do is this. And then I'm not sure it really... Oh, thanks, Sandy. I didn't know you were there. Thanks. I feel better. I'm not all alone. Oh, Gloria's all ready for the last seam. Of course you are, Gloria. You didn't wait for me, did you? So when you're looking at this, remember, you can't do this guy. He's too big. He's the last thing you do. So if you start there, okay, this is last, and I know this is first, it probably makes no difference which one of these you do first or second. So I'm going to flip this over, and normally you put your little pin in there, but I'm going to try to go a little faster to catch up with you guys. I can tell you tonight, I really have some crooked sewing. Okay, pressing to the dark side. I always put it back down because sometimes I think I know it all and I really don't. Couldn't tell which side was what. Okay, so I'm just going to flip this guy up. And now I can tell I've got an issue here. Can you see it? I didn't sew all the way to my end. So that must have been when I started out. So I'm going to go part way down, and I'm going to turn my wheel, if I could reach it, so that I know it's hitting the seam that I just made. I'm going to do a little locking stitch. So fix it as you go. Now when I open it up, you probably couldn't see it, but the little ends were like spread apart. Okay, so I got to put this back in its place so I know, because I got this all messed up now. There we go. I had this guy twirled around. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this one up, stick the pin in, get everybody lined up. Okay, come over, pressing the seam towards the white or the background. Put it back in to make sure. Oh, hey, Lynn, you're still there too? Glad everybody's hanging in. I don't think it stopped again. But you notice how I always put this back before I just pick up a piece and think I know what I'm doing. Okay, ask me how I know how to do that or why I do that, because I've done that. I've been Miss Little, I think I know what I'm doing. Okay, and then again, I'm pressing it out towards the background. Okay, I'm still on track. Now I just have to flip this over, and the ends, each end's going to line up. And remember what I told you about where these two seams cross. So I'm going to put a pin in this because this is a bigger piece. I'm going to put a pin in, and normally I'd have it laying down. I guess I should lay it down like I normally would. And then I want to make sure that I line up these two ends. So if one needs to have a little extra help, so that now this end and this end are pinned, even though I don't pin up at the end. And now I just have to pay attention when I come through of crossing that little line, or the little cross. Okay, let's see how we did. So there we are. We don't want to cut off our points, and we're going to press it to the dark side or to the plain side. And there we are. Oh, look, I turned it, didn't I? Got to be careful. There we go. Now, what you should do before you put these two together, what is it? 3.5. Each one of these should measure 3.5. So if you square them up before you sew, then your block will be that much nicer. Okay, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5. Right? Because 3.5 and 3.5 sewn together makes 6.5. So that's my math. 3.5 and 3.5 makes 6.5. Because it makes 7, but there's a 1/4 inch and a 1/4 inch, so there's a 1/2 inch there, so you take a 1/2 inch off. Okay, so we're turning the page of the book. Just going to stick a pin in there, turning the page, sticking the pin in there. I'm only going to pick up this one, and I want to make sure that it's all the way around square. Careful when you get to that seam, because if it's facing away from you, that means it might want to flip back when it goes by the presser foot. Okay, I'm going to leave that there because I want to web them together. let's open them up. Still looks like the same block. Uh-oh, look what I did. Did anybody notice it? What's this? They're supposed to be facing each other. Was anybody yelling to me? I bet you were. All right, here we go. Though it does look pretty good. Now, if I left that block like that, would anybody have any idea that that was wrong? No, they wouldn't. And I think maybe I'm going to leave it that way, because it'll make me laugh every time I see it, because it doesn't look bad, but it does make me laugh, because it makes me laugh how silly I was. So I think I'm going to leave that way. Now, when it comes to putting it into the quilt, I may go, yeah, that doesn't work, but I'm going to, so if I was going to take it out, I would simply cut here, take the seam out, turn it around. Yeah, Gloria says leave it. I kind of like it, don't you, Gloria? It kind of looks like the fish going this way. So Gloria says I should leave it, so I'm going with Gloria. All right, so I got to have, the main reason I noticed it, because I know I can press this seam can go that way, but you see how I've got seams on seams here. So let's see, I'm going to press, so it's real seamy back here, isn't it? Okay, so I'm pressing this one to the left. You'd be pressing this one to the right. Hopefully I can, maybe not. Sometimes we have to open up the seam. So let's look and see if we should open this seam, which means each half of the seam would go in its own direction. It's very hard to do. Now I'm not going to do it. It's hard to do with a 1/4 inch seam. But I have to, so I'm looking at this. So I wanted to go that way because there's less seam. But when I go to the right with this one, I'm trying to see, it's this one. No, I'm good. Either way, it feels a little bunchy there, but I'm good. I'm okay with that. So I'm locking my seam first, then I'm going to go to each end. And I just want to look and make sure I'm good all the way around. Okay, let's see what we got. Well, I like that. So I'm going to call this is the schoolhouse block. We just had a new schoolhouse block. So now I've got to look at this. Now my center feels fine. This one I knew was going to be a little lumpy. So this is my only little area, and I think because, and they kind of knock themselves, it doesn't look bad when you look at it, but trust me. So these two seams together kind of knock themselves out. And if you really wanted to fix that, you would undo from here between my thumbs. And they make that tape, Wonder Tape. It's water soluble. And you could put a little piece of that tape down and then stick them down so they stay together, and it would stay together better, but I'm okay with that. It's not my prom dress. So once you give it a little flattening out, then you're going to take it over and you're going to give it a good steam bath. Just on top, flip it over, do that. This one's probably going to be a little, yeah, it's a little bigger because I was really narrow on my seam allowances. I was sitting a little more left than I was thinking about. So here we are. This is our 8th block. Did you think you'd make it to your 8th block? So remember next week, and I got my red, and see how this really reads green even though it's got red in it, or at least it reads green to me. And I really think that gold really spiffed it up. So remember what you learned tonight. You can change your mind whenever you want to. It's okay. And you can sew a block different. I'm not going to say wrong. You can sew a block different than what the picture is. And if you look, the two reds are looking at each other, and my two reds are, my one fish is following the other fish, which is perfect for my Christmas block. So does anybody have any questions? Last minute comments? So your homework really is to square up your blocks. If you have trouble squaring up, I'll square up a couple of them at the beginning of class next week, because I know that's an issue sometimes. So you know what? Let's square one up now. Let's see how much we got time for that. So I'm going to use this ruler. I'm not sure how well you can see it, but this ruler has this line coming down, and then it has a red dash line going across. So this line going down the middle should be at each corner, and the line, you see how the line goes through the point, goes through the center, goes through the point. Now on this side, it's the dashed line. Can you see that dashed line right there? So again, I got to look to the edge. And look to this edge, so it's right in the corner. It's following the points of my pieces. See, it's following this point. You can really see it on this side, this way. Okay, if you have this kind of ruler, because you can't see it as well. This isn't my favorite ruler. It's an old one I have, because this has got too much going on. But see how there's that line going through the center? So this should be at one corner of your block, and this is at the other, and the line should be going right through the center, so right through where all the 4 blocks meet. So I think you can see it clearer. You can see it clearer with this ruler. This is the trying to remember. This is from this is actually for making these little half square triangles. But any ruler that has a line, most all rulers have a line go through the center. There are actual square up rulers that have nothing but the lines and no other stuff going on. But this one's pretty good because, see, you can see that line. So let me get my rotary cutter. Now, what could happen, and you probably would have noticed this as you were going along. So if you started out and you were making, your blocks were coming out 6 inches, then your seam allowance was too big. It's always better to go a little thinner than a little bigger, but remember we talked about several times double checking our seam allowance as we go along. Okay, so here's my line for the center, and it's falling right through the points of these green pieces. My line for the center this way, it's a red dash, so you probably can't see it as well, but it goes through the points in the other direction, and they both meet in the middle where the 4 blocks meet. And normally I would do this on a, a rotating mat. And you notice before, my hand is not leaving my ruler. Get off there. And I'm going to make sure I've cut everything away. And I have a mat that's made to twirl your fabric with, with its rulers, not this particular ruler. So I'm just going to carefully get around. So like I said, you'd use your, like the twirling, the rotating mats, or you just walk over to the other side, which I can't do, the cameras there. But I'm just going to double check, make sure I'm still in line. And you're going through a lot of seams, so, and like I said, I took real narrow seam allowances, not on purpose, but I forgot that I was a little left of the machine. But see how nice it looks when it's all done? And now this is 6.5 square. If you have some blocks that are smaller than others, you have to kind of go with the smallest one. But if I only had, like say everybody was pretty well 6.5 or a little bigger so you could trim it down, and I had one that was like 6.25, I just do that one block over. Just get over it and do it over. It's easier than try to fudge everything to fit that one block, trust me. That's we try to fix everything, and it's like altering clothes. Sometimes you can make a pair of pants faster than you could if altering them, or at least for me. Okay, so there we have the schoolhouse block. Yeah. In case you want to make the schoolhouse block, there again, take a picture of it. And by tomorrow I'll forget that this is the schoolhouse block. But you guys can remind me. Okay, so is everybody all set? I'll wait just a minute or two. Everyone have a great rest of your evening. Don't forget, if you're joining in for the Saturday afternoon sew-along, the cutting instructions for everything and fabric requirements are on Miss Loreens Schoolhouse Facebook page this morning, I believe it was. So you can find it there. Otherwise, I'll see you next Thursday with all your blocks ready to go. And we'll be working on our sashing. If you want to cut your sashing ahead, you can. Let me see. Let me go over that one more time just to be on the safe side. So if you're done and you don't need to hear this all over again, bye. Have a nice night. For those that you want to hear it again, the sashing. Okay, so the sashing is between the blocks and the sashing border. Those are cut 1.5. The sashing that's going inside with the blocks are cut the length of your block. So if your block is 8.5, you'll cut these 8.5. Okay. Oh yeah, Rhonda, I'll see you tomorrow. We got class scan and cut tomorrow. That's right. That's going to be fun. Okay, so these are cut 1.5. The inside border, if you're doing it, is cut 2, and the outside border is cut 3. Excuse me. So you'll need 3 strips, salvage to salvage, so width of fabric, 3 strips 3 inches, 3 strips 2 inches. These outside sashings is 3 strips 1.5 inches, and 10 inside ones, and 1, 2, 3 1.5 inch squares. And we'll be cutting them in the class next time. There's no hurry to get it done. I just wanted to give you an idea of what we were doing, because I know some of you like to get a little jump on things. Okay, so thanks everybody for joining in. If anybody new joined in, thanks for joining. be kind enough to subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell so you get notified when I come on with a live or I post a video. And I think that's it. Oh, thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up. You don't have to give me a thumbs down. I'm okay with that. And again, thanks everybody for joining in. Bye.